Good morning. Today I'm with Grete Wagner of the Norway Supported Employment Service, and it's just really to have a conversation about our time and things that we remember. So welcome, Grete.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. Actually, I'm representing the Norwegian Association for Supported Employment and not the Norwegian Supported Employment Service, which is perhaps a good thing to
I mean, it's a moot point at the minute with us thinking about unions and associations and such like. And yes, when I first started, it was the Association for Supported Employment, and now it's the British Association for Supported Employment. We go on journeys, I think.
Yes, we go on journeys. Yeah, but okay. But the service is more. The supported employment service in Norway is more the providers, what they deliver, and I represent. I don't represent them, and I think it's okay to be clear on that because I represent the interest organization. Yes, yeah.
I think that's a good way to start, and actually ask you, how did you first start on this journey of supported employment? If you can remember that long back.
I can. I still can, hopefully. Well, yes, I started my supported employment journey back in early 90s. It was 92, 93, somewhere around there, I think. And actually we were three people starting a project in Oslo. Back in 1992, and where we had some inputs from the United States about a methodology called supported employment, and we looked into that, and then we started this pilot project in Oslo. So that's where it started, really. And then we started working with the people with learning disability, as we were terming them in those days.
It is interesting because, I mean, Britain started also from America as well, and I think that's where a lot of us got our inspiration from. And I think your journey is similar to mine. It's maybe a bit later on. As I started back in 1986, and we had only two employment services that were actually helping people with learning disabilities find employment, but that mushroomed quite quickly. In my mind, I remember people from Norway coming to visit.
Absolutely, to see you.
I can't quite remember when, and I'm wondering whether it was some of your colleagues who came to London, because we did have around about 4 or 5 people from Norway visit us at Blake's Wharf Employment Service.
Yeah, but we came over before that. We came over in the early 90s. We went to Liverpool and Manchester, and then we were guided.
Was it Colin Goodwin you met in Liverpool?
Well, Colin Goodwin, I think I met a bit later. It was this woman. What was her name again?
Deborah Steele.
Deborah Steele, exactly, and other people. And then we were introduced to, we were sort of guided around different supported employment services and visited them and talked to employers and talked to people who were providing the supported employment services, the employment specialists. And then we also were introduced to systematic instruction. So we went to this training. And that wasn't Deborah Steele. That was another.
There was a lady called Sarah Woodin.
Sarah Woodin, that's right. That's
right. Sarah Woodin used to be my boss.
Really?
She used to be, yeah.
But I can't remember we met then. We didn't meet then, did we?
No. She was seconded from my organization. I became the manager, and she was seconded from my organization to run training and systematic instruction in the UK. Yeah. So it's always a small world.
It is, yes. I sort of remember also from when we were doing the systematic instruction training, we were actually training on people.
Yes.
They were sort of taken from the services, and then we trained on them, you know, there. And well, it was very interesting to see how you did it back in the UK then. And we were all obviously working with this bicycle brake, you know, from
it was a Bendix bicycle brake. I saw something on LinkedIn yesterday. I think it's gone up to a Ventura bike brake, but still training systematic instruction, which I would recommend anyone
absolutely
does.
yes yeah
Still uses the bike brake method, because there, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, there's about 18 ways of putting it together, but only one way right. And
exactly
doing it with a person with learning disability can be hard at times. So you learn very quickly, and it builds your confidence, I believe.
I have sort of developed that. So when I do, because I still do a little bit of training, I do have some courses, and then I don't bring this bike every time, because this brake, because but I have sort of developed it a little, and then changed it so they can train on a task that they actually do themselves, and then just to be aware of how many steps there actually are in one specific task that you do every day, which it's an eye-opener for some people, you know. Oh really, I do this without thinking about it. And then suddenly when I had to do this exercise, then I saw that there was so and so many different steps towards the solution of this particular task.
I once had to do it, and I hadn't got anything. I ended up doing it for dough for bread, and how to make dough for bread.
Exactly.
But that's the point. You can you know, it's the transferability and
Exactly.
building the steps. And
yeah
you know, I remember everyone getting very messy hands, but actually quite enjoying it.
Yeah. I remember my colleague and myself, Catherine, because you know we were the ones starting Supported Employment in Norway, and we went to Sweden to do training there, and we dragged all these big very heavy bicycle
huge
brakes on the plane. Oh yeah,
the plane carrier is probably wondering why you're carrying massive bike brakes with you.
Yeah. It was fun times. It was very, you know, we were being pioneers in a way. We were really starting on something new, and
I think
was
for
good.
me that was the exciting part. It was actually changing the rules, and the rules saying this person cannot work. And I think that's when I got to know you the best in UTIRS, was when we had a conversation. We were put into a room where we were told that we had to think about job readiness.
Yes, exactly.
And I think we both agreed that job readiness was nonsense.
I mean, I think that one of the challenges now, as I see it, is that we are still discussing that. You know, it's still on the agenda.
Yes.
Can you hear me, Robert? Because
I can
now
I can hear you perfectly well.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yes, it worries me that people keep coming back to this idea of job readiness, and
Exactly.
the whole idea for me is the fact that the supported employment should have that zero exclusion policy at its heart, and that's the line in the sand that makes us different. Is that we don't exclude everyone. We look at the ways that we can make jobs work, and that's the value side for me. So yes, I think it's a constant battle, and it will be a constant battle for the people coming up to move away and make sure people move away from this idea of a job readiness model, which is purely nonsense.
Absolutely. And we know because we have been there and we have experienced it. So yeah.
I did come to an agreement with a colleague of yours, Angela Schiff, that the job readiness was actually 42, which is the same as Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And so we did come to a conclusion at one conference that that's how we could work it out. But yes, it is a worry, because it's the values of how we first started was the fact that we believed that anyone could and can work. And that's where we all started from in the UK. And it's quite nice to hear that you came to the UK and you brought that back with you.
Yes, that was good. Yeah.
Coming back a bit, you went back to Norway as one service, and you said at the beginning that you're part of the Association for Supported Employment. How did that start in Norway?
Well, actually, initially. I think it was around the time when we organized the first conference, the first European conference. That was back in 1997. Yeah. And perhaps I think it was in connection to that we established the Norwegian Association for Supported Employment, because it was fairly new. The European Union of Supported Employment was fairly newly established as well, I think, around those times.
1992.
1992, so it was a bit earlier, yes. And the first conference in 93 in Holland, was it?
I believe so. I think the first one was in 1993 in Holland.
Yeah. So I think we started to debate then how to organize a Norwegian association. So we set it up formally around a little bit later, I think. Yeah. So and it was then it was the name of that association was Norwegian Association for Supported Employment. So we wanted to sort of establish the same sort of names that the other European countries had. And then Norway is a bit complex because we have such big organizations working with vocational rehabilitation, getting people back to work. And at that time we had our supported employment service was part of the European the Norwegian Association for Service Providers, and they form a huge association. So the people that were working with supported employment at that time, they were actually employed by service providers, sheltered workshops at that time, you see. And then we had they started their own association for which they called for supported employment, Forum for Supported Employment, Arbeid med bistand, which was the Norwegian translation of supported employment at that time. And this forum was just one part of this Norwegian Association for Service Providers, and they developed into sort of in competition with the Norwegian Association for Supported Employment, because we were an association not a part of the Service Providers Association, if you get my point.
Yeah, it's similar to the UK.
Yeah.
I was talking to Martin Davis the other day, and again, it was similar journey, is that we merged. That's why we became ASEE, became BASE, because we merged. ASEE was always seen as the supported employment providers, and then NACE was the supported businesses and sheltered workshop providers that had government funding. And we met both organizations, both Martin and Hugh Davis, realized that they would be better together rather than and I think it's helped us because it's made it less competitive and it's improved the quality vastly within the supported businesses in the UK.
Okay, I think it's the opposite picture in Norway, because what happened was that we also merged. We came to a time where we merged with this other association, and then the name Norwegian Association for Supported Employment disappeared. So it was the Forum for Supported Employment that was the new name, and it in more into a sort of a trade union, not officially a trade union, but more like an association that was taking, they were what's the word, the English word, you know, this is difficult. But they were more concerned about the wages of the employment specialists and the work and the circumstances of their work, you know,
rather than improving
work
the
environment,
quality of
things.
the service providers to improve the quality to the candidates.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but they were more, they were not, whereas the Norwegian Association for Supported Employment, we were more interested in developing supported employment as a methodology.
Yes.
Yeah, and we wanted to do that, you know, we wanted to, that's where we wanted to have the highlights, not on the circumstances for the job specialists working within supported employment. That of course is important as well, but that was not the main focus of the Norwegian Association for Supported Employment. So we merged, and then it was FAB for a while, and then we changed it again, and I think that was just before I became a chair of the new association. They decided to go back to, you know, the original idea of having an association that could promote the methodology of supported employment. So they changed the name again to SENO, which really is Supported Employment Norway. And that's where we are now. And we are, of course, as we are a small organization. It's not like base at all. We have SENO is a small association with a board and a few members, some private members and some organizational members, and then we try to do our best to promote supported employment in Norway and beyond.
I think you do really, really well, and I think what people need to remember is the size of countries. I mean, the UK itself has around about 65, 70 million people, and therefore, you know, we will be bigger because we just have more people, and therefore we need more services. So I think it brings me on to, I first got to know you when you, as the chair of SENO, you came onto the USA board, and I think that's when I first got to know you. And I you know, we both been involved in USA for quite many years, and for me, I'd like your thoughts on what the use of EUSE is, because I think there's been we've done a tremendous deal over the many years.
Well, I think it, to me at least, I think it has been the last, well, the last, you know, in the period when I have been part of use, I think it has become, I think the values and principles and the methodology, the supported employment methodology, has become clearer. I mean, I think use has developed positively in a manner to really promote the core values of supported employment, and I think that's
well, I think it started with the toolkits. It started with the toolkit.
Started with the toolkit, of course, yes.
And I think that was the starting point. And
that was back in 2010. We finished the toolkit.
Was it really that long ago? And yet the toolkit is still relevant today, and still you know, it hasn't gone out of date on those things. But you know, more importantly is your involvement more recently in the SEQF, the quality the quality framework for supported employment, where you did a remarkable job with other partners in developing what I think is a good framework on what supported employment is, and more importantly, what it isn't, and and how to measure that quality. Is there anything? I mean, can you tell us a little bit about the SEQF and your views on it?
Yeah, well, the SEQF is, as you said, it is about quality on supported employment quality framework, and although it's then the title is supported employment quality framework, it actually consists of two parts. One part is a self-assessment tool, and then the other part is an audit that services can do, and so it's to me, the way I sort of find the SEQF, which also is one of the big assets to the SEQF as compared perhaps to other quality frameworks, is that it is a tool. It provides organizations with practical tool on how to develop their organizations in order to deliver better supported employment. So that is one of the discussions.
I think that the big thing about that is what it will do over a period of time is organizations that want to be judged as good at SEQF will have to put the relevant training in, and that will give, I believe, national associations a chance to train properly, and that's happened to a large extent in the UK, where we now do have, for the first time, national occupational standards. We do have people going on proper training courses, and that's improving the quality in the sector, and ultimately that means more jobs for people with disabilities.
Yeah, that would be one of my big dreams, is that we could have some of the same back in Norway, you know, when it comes to national occupational standards, because you've had them for some time in the UK, and we used
I think it's since 2014, so it's 10 years now. It had, for us, it was a stepping stone. It made a huge difference in getting national occupational standards. We did that on a shoestring, but getting the national occupational standards meant that we had something to train to. That was the most important aspect. Then the training courses has produced a much more professionalism within supported employment, which is, you know, it's massive. It's making people realize that job coaches are not just care workers, which was a thought that people have. And I'm really passionate of saying that to the skills of a job coach or an employment consultant is massive. And national occupational standards gives it a professionalism that is important.
Yeah. I think we have to learn from that in Norway in order to I remember when we developed the supported employment quality framework, we were working in that project, we were looking at the national occupational standards as well, and we have been doing that in other projects as well within the use. So yeah,
I think this is one of the big values for me for use, is we collaborate together, and despite Britain being different and deciding to leave Europe, BASE very much decided that we weren't leaving Europe, and I was very pleased about that, because I think it's a collaboration with all the countries. We're all we bring something together, all of us, and I think that's the most important thing. And between us all, we come up with some good products.
But I think what is interesting now is that the use as an organization has developed this further supported employment quality, the SEQF development, to actually we are looking at it now, different partners within use, and then we are looking at the language, the terms. We are sort of looking at how to find a quality mark for supported employment, which I think is very important, and I think it's very good if we achieve that within the European setting. You know, it's not just up to every country to
No, I think if it's held by Europe, and then that's a really good. It's not just by one country.
Exactly.
It's by 22 countries, and that's important.
Yeah. So I look forward to that work. I think that's that will probably be you know, it will go on until the end of this year, 2024.
Yeah.
So and that will probably also be my exit from supported employment and use.
You're like a boxer. You keep saying you're retiring. I remember you said you were retiring, and I wanted you to talk about, because you took on a burden of organising the 14th wonderful user conference in Oslo, despite COVID and despite all the sort of panics and everything. And you said you were going to retire then, but I was so pleased you didn't totally retire then. So we've yeah. So, but in all of that, can you remember anything about the experience of the Oslo conference?
Oh yes, I can. I remember a lot. I remember so many things. And perhaps the best thing of everything was that people came. You know,
Yes.
people actually came. There were many delegates coming, and you said we had just passed COVID and lockdowns and everything, and then at that specific time also there were difficulties with air strikes and things like, not air strikes, but what do you say?
Well, airlines hadn't got
Yeah,
enough staff and they
yeah.
weren't running.
So some people couldn't come because of that, but people came, and the atmosphere at this conference was absolutely wonderful, I think. I mean, people
Yeah.
were so happy to meet physically again, and to talk to people and to chat to people. And I remember the first day, just before the start of the conference, the power broke.
Of course, there's always something going.
Electricity just poof, and then, and oh my God. And it seemed they were doing some construction work just outside the venue, so I think that was the reason why. And they had to they somehow they could deal with it, and we could start. I think it was just 15 minutes after the scheduled time, and it was amazing how we managed to actually take in that time again, so we were on track. But people said afterwards, when I was talking to them, that it was quite good, because we could be there in the lobby area, and it was all dark, and but it didn't really matter, because then we could just walk around and talk to people and chat with people, and we were so happy. And so it was really networking to be in the power
I think this
supply
is a
event.
great thing about the conferences, and yes, you were right. I think after lockdown, it was so nice to be
Mm,
together again,
mm,
and I think that was really wonderful.
mm,
And also, I think the great thing about EUSE conferences is we catch up with people,
mm.
and it helps us collaborate, and it helps us to think of new ideas
Yes.
and new innovations, and it re-energizes. I know I came back absolutely re-energized
Oh,
when
that's
I
good.
came back,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
I remember it as a really great conference, and
Mm.
I remember thinking in it is, oh, this is how we are at base. Everyone looks so calm on the outside, but behind everyone is running around and you see that, and the
Yeah.
work that goes into it is tremendous.
But I also had a great team. I mean, it was
Mm.
a wonderful team, working with the whole, the 2 years before, and where we planned this conference and everything, and what they did, and all the volunteers and people were, I mean, great. It was just a marvelous team. And even the weather was
The
absolutely
weather
gorgeous.
was
Can you
perfect.
remember? Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Because we
perfect.
always have this slight fear that, oh, will it be very cold? Will it rain? This was June. No, I mean, will it snow? But it was June, so we weren't expecting snow. But still, it was
It was
beautiful. It was
perfect.
wonderful.
It
Yeah.
was
So,
wonderful weather. I remember everything was perfect. So
that's good. Yeah, so that
uh,
was a good exit
yes.
from my paid job.
And now, I mean, looking forward, what do you think that in the future the challenges are ahead for supported employment and getting more valued employment for people with a
Mm,
disability?
mm. I think it's sad to say, perhaps, but I think it's still uh, the the discussion about what is supported employment, what is supported employment quality, and
Mm.
that's one of the reasons why we are working on supported employment quality framework at the moment, to really try to find what is quality. When can you say that your result is based on supported employment, real supported employment.
I agree with you. I have these worries when we'll have something like IPS Light, or you know, and what does IPS Light mean? Well, we'll not have the support of the person. Well, no, it's not. That's not supported employment, and I worry about this. The model isn't broken, you know, but what we need to do is make sure that people using the model are actually operating it properly with good quality. And we're putting the quality tools there for people, so there isn't an excuse. I do think that many of the younger people coming forward, they are enthused, and I think it is good that there are people taking that forward. But I do think the challenges will be around technology, and again the conversation, and I look at my own country and how comments about people with disabilities get quite disturbing, and instead of actually looking at how people can actually be positive, they look at how people are negative, and I worry about that. I've always said it's been like pushing a boulder up a hill, and it needs many people to keep pushing. And I think that's going to continue to need happening.
Yeah. And I think also it's at least when I relate to the Norwegian circumstances, you know, we have because we have progressed a lot in Norway, in both in the service provider sector, and but also in the public employment sector. You know, we have absolutely progressed when it comes to deliver services that are based on supported employment, at least. But I still think we have some potential in order to be clearer on the methodology, actually work with a specific individual and a specific employer to support this individual to get and keep jobs, you know, to actually how to do it, rather than focusing on how the different services are organized. Because the different services, how they are organized, does not necessarily say anything or tell you anything or guide you anything about how to do the actual job out there. And I think I think that's one of the challenges that we still need to be aware of. And of course, technology is important, and AI and everything is important. But I also think that it is about relationships between people.
Yes, I think this is the biggest thing that people forget. The whole job has been about how we relate to employers, and how we relate to people with disabilities, and how we can broker and get proper valued jobs. And it is about proper valued jobs that people want. And it's always been about that. And that still will remain. Jobs may change, but the jobs we will want to get people will be the valued jobs with proper career progression.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think those are the challenges, not many challenges for the young people ahead.
Yeah, I think also the concept of career, because a career or career progression, career development, it looks very different from when I started my career.
Yes.
So how we define career, and that it's quite normal to change jobs now, and it's not that normal to stay in a job for 45 years and then, you know, you retire and you are happy with that. So I think and jobs,
and why should that be for a person with a disability? You know, we need to be able to offer people careers. And I think, you know, supported internships are really important in that, and starting people right at the beginning of the right types of jobs that they might want to go into, and looking at their jobs as a career, I think is really important.
Yep, this. Yeah. And start early for people also, people with disability, youngsters with disability, you know, to start early already in this.
The earlier
in
we can
school
start, the
transition.
better.
Yes, yeah, that's
The
important.
more confidence we can build in people, the better.
Exactly.
Raising aspirations is a big thing I've always said, is if we can raise aspirations,
Yes.
then it will help everyone.
And then we have to believe in people. Otherwise there is no way we can raise aspirations for people. Yeah.
And I think that's where what's come across in all the interviews I've done is that all the people I've interviewed is they've believed in the candidates that they've been working with. And that's come across, and that's the most important. We have to believe in people, and we have to constantly be saying that people with disabilities can do good jobs.
Yep. We
Grete,
can totally agree on that.
we could talk forever on it. But one of the things I do want to finish on is that I always say about people making a difference. And, you know, Grete, in all of your time, not just in Norway, but in Europe, and I'm sure that's gone right across the world, you have made a difference in your career. Yeah, you're not very good at taking compliments, but you have really made a difference in your career. I can promise you.
Well, thank you for that, Robert. I think it has to do with having good people to work with as well. I think that's very important, because nothing happens in a vacuum, sort of.
No.
It happens in team, and to work with people who share the same values as you. And I think, and at least that is very important for me, to be part of teams that share the same sort of aspirations and values. And not saying that we shouldn't be able to have different opinions and different interests and things like that. But to have the sort of the grounded values, I think, is very important. So
Brilliant. Thank you, Grete.
Okay, thank you for interviewing me, and then we'll see how this works out.
Okay, thank you.